Ed.
Beautiful.
Yay, Ed Han has joined the room. So
Yay.
happy to see your face.
Good
Hello.
morning to everyone joining us today. And welcome to Ed and Terry and Yen and Carla and Emily and Elena and so many other people who are joining us today. If this is the first time joining an Accelerator call, would you please put the number 1 in the chat so I can welcome you? Okay, Diana Alt, number 1. Ed Han, we know Emily is number 1. Absolutely. You are all. Amy Silgrove, welcome. Jenny G, Ann, welcome. Kenneth Diamond, welcome to our call. So I'm so excited to see so many newbies here. Alan Switowski also is a newbie. Excellent. So I encourage you all to put your LinkedIn URL in the chat. I also encourage you to put into the chat what kind of job you're looking for, and if you don't mind, where you're calling in from. You never know who's going to be on this call. You never know who's going to have that perfect job for you or that perfect networking opportunity. So definitely put that information into the chat so we can connect with each other. I'm going to give you a little background to the accelerators because that's the group that we are part of right now. 10 years ago, I was happily employed at a bank as the director of human resources. I loved my team. I loved my job. I loved everything about it. And then we got that crushing news that we were being acquired by another bank, and they sure didn't need 2 HR directors. So what was I going to do? I didn't really want to get another job. And so I said, let me try and form my own company. And I formed AIM Resource Group 10 years ago, really to help people navigate their careers, whatever that might mean. Over the last 10 years, I've done so many things, but I think the thing that I'm most proud of is being the designated career coach for the Accelerator career group. We started at the beginning of COVID. We really wanted to create a community of people who would inspire each other, would educate each other, and really motivate each other to get through that job search. And that's what we've done. We started with a small but mighty group of 6, and we are now well over 600 today. And so that group has morphed into this now monthly call that I host. And I always have the best presenters on these calls. And Virginia is one of those wonderful presenters. She presented to us about a year ago, and we had so many requests for her to come back. And so she's doing us the honor of being here from her beach home to answer all your questions about resumes and LinkedIn. If you are not yet a member of our private LinkedIn community, which is called the Accelerator Group, Lori's going to put in the link into the chat, which is there right now. And please, you're always welcome to join. It is a private group, but I will let you in as long as you use that link for sure. And we want you to be there. We're always posting resources in that group. So please be an active member of the group. And also, if you have not yet connected with me, please feel free. I love to connect to all job seekers, and I'm always happy to help out in any way that I possibly can. Next month, July 9th, mark your calendars. The esteemed Terry Seaman will be joining us, and he's going to be talking about how to get unstuck when your job search has stalled. Anyone who's been in the job search for more than a month knows that sometimes we stall. Sometimes we are active and we're proactive and we're networking and everything is working great. And sometimes it just feels like it's stalled. So Terry's going to inspire us next month, July 9th, with some tips and tricks of how to stay motivated. And the link is in the chat right now, and you can sign up right now for that registration so you don't forget. I know we're getting towards the middle of the summer, and I know people have lots of plans, so I will always record these so you can catch it if you're not able to join live. Since today's session is an Ask Me Anything format, and Virginia has kindly offered her knowledge and her expertise to answer any questions you have, I'm going to ask you to use the raise hand function in Zoom if you feel comfortable speaking and asking about your own questions. If you are shy and you'd rather just put it in the chat, I ask you to put it in all caps because it's hard to see them in the chat. And so I obviously prefer that you ask your own questions. So I'm going to ask you all, just as a practice, to raise the hand. And for me, it's in my more section. David, Kristen, yeah, I'm raising my hand. Yeah. And you see, it bumps you up to the top. Love it. I love it. That is I love that. Take that picture. It's great. Everyone raising their hand. All right. You can lower your hand if you don't really have a question. If you do have a question, you can leave it up. And I am going to introduce Virginia right now. Virginia Franco is a resume expert. She's actually the past president of the National Resume Writers Association, which is pretty cool. And she has shared her job search insight with Forbes and JobScan, just to name a few publications. She is here to talk today about anything that you have a pressing concern or question about your resume or LinkedIn profile, because we know very well those two go hand in hand, right? We really can't get a job with just a resume or just a LinkedIn profile. We do need both. And so Virginia is going to be happy to answer your questions. We have a couple from people who have who are not able to be here today or who have sent me questions in advance. And so we will get started. And there is Miss Virginia. Virginia, anything you want to say to the group before we get started?
Well, number one, thank you for having me. I love your group. The questions are always so insightful. I have been writing resumes since the dawn of day. It seems like in the 20th century, I did not know that anyone wrote them for a living for years. And so I used my degree in journalism to write for newspapers, magazines, websites, companies, a little bit of everything. And so I bring that lens to what I do today. I do tend to talk really quickly, so if I'm talking too fast, please put slow down in the chat, and I will try to slow it down. But I get pretty excited about this stuff, and there's a lot I want to share. Just tell me to slow down.
You got it. You got it. All right, so we're gonna jump right in. And I got like an SOS message last night from someone who is not able to join us today. And she said, I need help. I'm a former high school biology teacher who wants to pivot into medical or pharma sales. She left teaching 2 years ago when her son was born, and she wants a career that will give her the flexibility that she's looking for and the income she needs to support her family. So her question is, what should I do to help her resume and her LinkedIn profile so that she can show potential employers that she's a good candidate for these types of jobs? And so there's really two things that she's dealing with. And Virginia and I spoke about this just briefly because I got this in advance. Number one, of course, is the fact that she has a gap now. And number two is the fact that she's trying to pivot it from education into sales, which is a decent pivot. So Virginia, if you want to get started, that'll be great. And while Virginia's talking, if you start thinking about questions you would like to ask Virginia, you know what to do. Just raise your hand and we'll try and get to you next.
So this was sort of my head started spinning when I heard this question because there are lots of moving parts. And my response has just as much to do with job search and the strategy this person would need to undertake as it does sort of the nuts and bolts of how they write about themselves. Couple of things came to mind. She said, I'm looking for flexibility and income with this. And my reaction was in some healthcare, medical device, pharma sales, there's not flexibility. So I would want to make sure that this person is really clear on what type of healthcare medical sales they want to do. And so I always tell people, when you're looking to pivot, have exploratory discussions with people. Don't make a leap without really understanding the ins and outs of what someone's work really entails. With medical sales, you want to know, do I want to work in cardio? Do I want to work in diabetes? Do I want to work in, disposable equipment like gloves and masks? Do I want to sell, big X-ray machines? There's a ton of different things you can do with it. What I would say is there are certain avenues where it's easier to gain entry than others. So it's easier to break in with little to no sales experience into the disposable equipment realm than it is to um, I can't imagine you'd be able to get a job selling spinal products where you have to be in the operating room. That's like the tippy top tier of that space. So it's much harder. So, and how you write really depends on what that target is. Um, what I always tell people is when they're making a pivot, and this is regardless of if it's healthcare, medical, or something else, you are most likely to land quickly when you leap into something that is it's a smaller leap or a micro pivot. So um common if I was a teacher and I wanted to position into sales, I might consider an industry that is, closely ancillary to what I was doing, like educational technology, for instance, is something that I see people doing. And then they might spend a couple years selling ed tech, and then they're able to pivot from there into medical technology. But it is what you need to, what's important to understand is that the reader needs to understand how you going from this role to that is a natural next step. And so we have to find some tie-ins. Um, for instance, maybe so she was a high school biology teacher. Maybe she has spent the gap getting well versed in a particular disease state, or this part about biology, genetics has always interested her, so she's interested in selling that. Or maybe she was a biology teacher and then she took care of an alien person and really learned the ins and outs of the payer landscape. So you want to, based on the person's individual background, I try to find tie-ins to be able to share a story that eliminates or mitigates risk for the reader or the hiring manager that needs to make the case for why this person who maybe on the surface will be coming out of left field makes for a good fit. Um, the other piece that I think is important to know is that when you're making a big pivot, pounding the payment is going to be absolutely required. Um, when you're applying online, you're going to be competing against people that have, industry experience in sales, experience in medical. Recruiters, there's many people on this call that have been recruiters, are recruiters, and they want to help, but at the end of the day, they are hired by the company to find the closest fit. And so you have to have a really strong argument for why your non-traditional background is a better and closer fit than maybe someone who um, was in, I don't know, capital equipment sales and they want to pivot into pharma sales. That's that's less of a risk for the recruiter, and so they're more likely to um, want to search for those kind of candidates. So when you're looking for a pivot, you really need to target people that are working in those companies, people that have access to decision makers. Those informational interviews are going to be really, really helpful. I would recommend you use LinkedIn search filters to search for people that have made non-traditional pivots like the one that you're targeting. You can search by people that have worked at one company and another. You can look at alumni. There's all sorts of ways to use LinkedIn search filters to try to um, drum up people that you can have exploratory conversations with. Ask for some of their time. Let them know that no is okay, but say what you can say is, I saw that you were able to successfully segue into this industry. This is something that I'm trying to do too. Could I speak to you about how you did it? Um, those conversations will help you identify what the gaps might be. They might be knowledge gaps, they might be skills gaps. And then you can go about figuring out how best to close them. Sometimes you close them with how you write the resume. Sometimes you close them other ways. In the world of medical sales, I know that there's a medical sales college, and I've seen people go to it. It's like a 12-week program. They have campuses all over, and they're able to get placed into companies because they have that experience. I've seen also people that transition to coding and tech do that. They took some of the coding boot camps. Instructional designers, I've seen them do that. Yeah. From there, once you've done all of that sort of exploratory homework, if you are crystal clear on your target, then you go about writing your documents and not before. What I would then do is I would try to think about your role, in this case, within the lens of a sales campaign, because you're targeting a role in sales. So what maybe, it's sales, for instance, you have to do a lot of presentations. So let's talk about presentations that you did. Have you ever sold in any capacity? Did you do fundraising? Did you sell Girl Scout cookies? Did you have to convince a group of parents of something? Did you have to be persuasive? So what I do is I look at the things that are parts of the role that are applicable, and then try to find instances in your current job where that's applicable. LinkedIn has a great tool called LinkedIn Explorer, I think it's called. I
Career
can find the
Explorer.
Career
Career.
Explorer. Thank you. And you can literally type in teacher, and then you can type in sales, and it shows all of the relevant skills, and you can try to find crossover that way. But what you're doing is you're pick and choosing parts of your current, your past, her, in this case, her past experience, and telling it with the lens of what's relevant to the new role. So that's how we're talking about the pivot. As Mindy pointed out, for other challenges, that she has a career gap. To me, it's best to just come out clean and say that you have had a gap. Most people I know that have had gaps are anything but idle during that time. It's possible that she did volunteer work where she had to test drive some sales skills. Like I said, maybe she did some fundraising. Maybe she was a Girl Scout leader and then she had to be the cookie mom, and who knows what it is. But try to find ways that you can talk about the gap, that sort of showcase that you have advanced your knowledge and possibly closed any additional learning gaps. Maybe, as I said earlier, maybe she took care of someone and learned a good bit about a particular therapeutic area or disease state, and that is what makes her has piqued her interest in this role. But definitely call out the gap. Don't try to make up stuff that you didn't do. And then in your cover letter, what you do is you explain why you're making this change, what you've been doing during the gap to help you target that, and you're basically sort of addressing the elephant in the room, which is why this and why now. So I'm going to rest my mouth for a second and see if there's anything that I haven't talked about.
Virginia,
A question.
Virginia, this is fabulous. I'm going to just pause for a moment because I see some of our other experts
Yes,
on the
please
raising their
weigh in.
hand.
Please, please.
I see Ed. Ed, would you like to add to this, or do you have a question?
I'd like to answer if that's okay.
Sure.
Um, Very quickly, I just want to observe that pharma is especially challenging to crack into. Um, and so the power of the informational interview that Virginia was talking about cannot be overstated, cannot be. Talk to current pharma salespeople, talk to current pharma sales directors. Those are the people that you really need to talk with to understand, okay, what kind of sales, to underscore what Virginia was saying, what kind of sales do I want to do? And are these kinds of roles going to be compatible with what I find I need? I think that is an absolutely essential point. I just wanted to underscore those things.
Absolutely. Ed, thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing
Thank you.
your knowledge. Appreciate it. Thank you, Ed. And I see Diana also is raising her hand. What would you like to add to the conversation, Diana?
Oh, well, I actually had a question for Virginia too, but
Okay.
I was going to say that one of the things that people really don't understand well enough is the problems that jobs need to solve. So everything Virginia said about transfer, about basically the next logical step, that is defined by how close the problems that you might be able to solve are. So the reason that fundraising volunteer work matters is because you have to create a plan to hit a fundraising goal and then figure out what your outreach strategy is for that. Those are very important skills that you might have gotten in a different context. So if you think through, what's the problem that people are needing to solve? Oh, I need to sell something to meet a sales target, and I need to plan ahead and be bold and also do follow-up. There's a million different ways. Like teachers are amazing on follow-up and juggling small details. So those are some of the kind of dots people can connect.
And
That's
did you
such a
say,
good
did you
point,
say you
yeah.
had a question as well?
Yeah, I do. Like Virginia, I wanted to ask, so I've like
Mhm.
you are my resume guru that I look to often to learn from. But one thing I want to know is for people like me that focus less on resume writing and more on teaching people job search strategies and enabling DIY for clients that don't want to or can't afford a resume writer,
Mhm.
what is something that people like me are getting wrong? You know, whenever we are trying to guide our clients, something that you wish that we would kind of change how we message or include in what we're talking to people about.
I mean, I follow your post closely, Diana, and I don't think you ever get it wrong. I think job
What-
search is hard. Job search is hard. It is not intuitive for so many. Writing is hard, and even people that are good writers, it's hard to write about themselves. So I feel like um a lot of times if someone's career is pretty straightforward, a DIY approach can work really well. It just gets harder as your comp as the goal gets harder and the story is more complicated. Um, what I tell people is figure out your biggest weakness and then use, if you have any resource dollars for a professional, use it there. Like
Mm,
maybe your resume is in really good shape, but you stink at interviews. It gives you hives. Then maybe you'd want to focus on an interview coach, or maybe you're a good writer and you're a really good interviewer. You just don't know what it is you want to do next. You don't have, if you're not targeted, how you respond about yourself and how you write about yourself is going to suffer. And so maybe you'd want to consider working with someone that can help you do some exploratory discussions. Um, so that's, I mean, to me, that's a lesson for all of us that do
I
job
love that.
searches.
I love that.
Your money where it makes sense.
I think I hear people in our profession often say that the thing that they should spend money on happens to be the thing that they're selling. And that doesn't sit well with me because
No, I turn people away all the time with
but
the, if look, if it,
I've usually said clarity and getting clear on things
mhm.
because that's at the start of everything. But I love the notion of spend your budget on one-on-one coaching dollars and the thing that you struggle with the most.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Identify your own weaknesses. And sometimes that's the hardest thing, right? What are my weaknesses and where do I want to spend my budget on it?
right. And sometimes the job search there's a lot of bottlenecks. You need to figure out where things are getting stuck. People come to me all the time and they say, I've had 5 interviews after applying to 20 jobs and I need more. And I say that's a really good return. Your problem isn't the resume, it's your job search strategy. Or, I don't always get the job. I get to final interviews and your resume is doing its work. So it depends.
Cool.
Excellent. Thank
Cool.
you, Diana.
Good
Thanks.
question.
Emily has been sitting patiently waiting. Emily, you are up. What's your question for Miss Virginia?
So I understand. Okay, so I'm in the job search process. I'm in a pivot. And I also realized, because I have been really info gathering all the things. I taught for 11 years. For 2 years, I've been freelance digital marketing, and now I'm trying to find a role in account management. Anyway, but like going back and remembering all the things you've done, it's really challenging. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I've
Yeah.
overhauled, I think I'm on my 15th version of my resume in 2024. It
Okay.
just is what it is, right?
Yeah.
So I want to know, and I also understand, like, I'm a millennial, changes aren't going to be our normal. Like, we're in
Yeah.
roles
Gen
average,
X. Hello.
yeah,
Yeah.
2 to 4 years. So I want to know from you, like, what strategies do you have for like continuing to info gather as you're in your career? Like, I'm getting close to hopefully I'm going to land one of these roles here soon, everybody. Been like final things that are good, yay. But I'm
Yeah.
like, holy cow, I never want to be here again. Like, how do I make
Yeah.
sure I'm gathering case studies, evidence? You know what I mean? Like, what are the important nuggets and like good strategies you have for that? Just so I don't ever have to like start at ground zero. Does that make sense?
So that is such a good question, and good luck on your roles. To me, the easiest framework to keep in mind, because I'm a TV junkie, is I think of each job like an HGTV before after renovation show. And so as you're in your role, think about, okay, what do things look like right now? And what am I hoping to get them to? And then if you've left your job, you can reflect on what did things look like when I got there and what did things look like as I'm leaving or when I left. And then you think, what was my role in moving things from point A to point B? Your emails can tell you that. Your project documents that you might have to create. What else? Annual reviews that you have to write. Those are the roadmaps that tell you what your role was in moving things from the before to the after state. And then what is most important is to understand the so what. Why was that movement important? How did it benefit your division, your customers, your company? You can go as far out or as close in terms of the impact as you want. But what that does is it enables you to craft a handful of bullets that they weave in your responsibilities, but they showcase your achievements with details and with context. And when a reader reads that bullet, they say, well, that's what I need to. And it also, what I love about that approach is, let's say you move things from point A to point B, but on the surface, the numbers didn't look that great. So let's say you did some digital marketing and you had, 1,000 clicks or whatever, impressions. That might not sound that good compared to some other big ad, but if that accomplishment was compared to predecessors or past campaigns where the impressions were much lower, then that's a win. So that context can really make a difference. And the impact you might be judging is, why was this campaign so important to the company? What did it do did it elevate stock share? Did it grow market share? Did it help to launch something that helped the company enter into a new market? All those things, again, get the reader thinking that's my pain point. Does that help?
Yes.
Okay.
Really trying to make myself, I'm like, keep up on your LinkedIn, even if you get a role,
I know,
keep your ass going on LinkedIn and
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
documenting these things so you don't end up, like, I feel like I just really had to start at ground
Yeah.
zero.
Yeah.
And I've made a lot of progress, but it's like, let's keep going.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Emily, this is great, such a great question. I do recommend that you set aside some real time that, I don't know, once a week, you are on LinkedIn, you are commenting,
Yeah.
you are posting, you are doing things, something that is, that can create a habit for you, whatever is good for you, early morning, late afternoon, whenever you're going to be working shortly, you're going to tend to, let these other things slide. So LinkedIn is such an important tool and you don't want to lose that. So I would definitely recommend making a habit of something at least once a week, if not more so.
If you guys don't follow Steve P. Brady, he's a high school teacher, but he has had a career coaching practice the whole time throughout. And he does, different tips Monday through Friday. And a lot of them are prompts to keep you thinking and keep your accomplishments current and active. Definitely give him a follow.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Emily. I see Al Smith has his hand raised. Al, do you have a question or a comment for Virginia?
Two comments. One, it's great to see Ed Hahn, and sorry about that. This is a working office, or sometimes working, but great to see Ed Hahn, and good luck with the next course. But with regard to the person who we started off with, I think one, I've been in medical, pharmaceutical, and sales way back for a long time. And my mother, who's 94 years old, is a teacher. So I know she still is a teacher. So I have some feelers in both of those. But I think of the transferable skills that this person and others have. Biology teacher certainly knows physiology. A teacher has to be a good listener as well as a good presenter. Both of those are necessary in sales. They need to read body language. You have to use creative problem solving. Teachers are always lifelong learners, which means it transfers to reading clinical studies and being able to take the most important parts out of those clinicals to present to physicians. And it also takes great territory planning. So those two things, I'm done.
That's great.
Thank you, Al.
Really great. Thank you, Al.
Always love your perspective, Al, for sure. And Ed has his hand raised again. Ed, you're going to be one of our most active participants today. Love it.
Hey there, everyone. I have a question. One of the things that I encounter a lot when I am screening candidates for positions is that they have questions. I love it when people ask me questions. I absolutely adore that because it shows that they're engaged, that they're really thinking about how can I be effective, how can I be successful in this process, right? And the best questions are the ones that say, will I be happy here? Those are really great questions. Those make me really excited. And one of the ones I'm most fond of is, why do you enjoy doing what you do where you do it, right? So Virginia, I'd like to turn that question to you. What is it that you find so engaging about this work?
Oh, what I do?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, that's an easy one. I love hearing people's stories. It is fascinating. I have met the most interesting people. I know so much about um, just different aspects of companies and businesses and roles and stories of people overcoming hardships. I get off of every call completely humbled by what people have done. I always joke, my kids always called me nosy, but I always say I'm curious. And so this role lets me do that.
Love it. Great answer.
I love that. And I think that really speaks to the journalist you once were.
Yeah, yeah.
I love that. Thank you.
Oh, of course. Thank you. What a good ask. Thank you.
We have a question from Lucy. Lucy, do you want to ask it yourself or do you want me to ask it for you? If you can unmute, that would be great.
I thought
Sorry,
I saw
I'm
that she
just
posted a question.
yes. No, I'm happy to ask it. I'm just in a noisy spot, so that was all that
Okay.
why I put it in the chat.
I can ask.
I actually had two questions. But I mean, you can pick which one you think is more appropriate. The first one was I'm having luck in the job search process. I'm getting to final stages. However, I'm just wondering, is there something specific I should be focusing on for myself because I'm not getting past the final rounds? And the second question I had was about LinkedIn and when would be the right time to post and how to get that tracking attention on those. So those were the questions. Apologies if it's noisy where I am.
So I guess I'll tackle the first one. I don't do interview coaching anymore. I'm more focused on the writing, but what I can say is there could be a couple of different things going on with the final interview process. I'd encourage you to go back and search and see who got those roles and see if you can find commonality. What I think is important to keep in mind is, unlike so the initial phone screens and those first couple rounds of interviews, those are designed to look at skills matches, right? You're sort of going through the job posting, showing how you're a match. By the time you get to the final rounds, there's a lot of culture fit stuff going on. So they want to see if they can see you working in their culture, and then also you want to see if you feel like that you fit in. And so I would encourage you in your next interviews, to try to get intel from people that have worked there, or maybe people that are recently departed. Recognizing people that are recently departed, sometimes you get people that are really mad, but sometimes you don't. And sort of see if you can get a handle on what the culture looks like, and what kind of people they tend to attract. And then if you see alignment with your own experiences, speak to that. I would love for some other people that do focus more on interview coaching to weigh in on this one. Really quickly, I'll answer the LinkedIn one. If you are someone who is brand new to LinkedIn and the idea of posting gives you hives, I would start with commenting. Use LinkedIn search filters, look for people that are in your space that are actively having discussions, and try to comment 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes at night, adding your insight, weighing in. It is a great way to get conversations going, to help you find your voice. From there, then I believe it's okay to start posting. Some people like to create a series of little posts. Some people like to do one big blog and then turn that into micro posts. Start out maybe 2 or 3 times a week. It's okay if you don't get engagement, but you sort of need to keep a consistent schedule if you want to sort of grow your engagement over time. I'd love for some of the career folks to weigh in on the interview piece, because I think that's really important.
Yeah, I'm just going to comment briefly for Lucy. In terms of when to post, you need to test your audience, right?
Yeah.
Depending on what topic you're posting on, you may have different engagement at different times. And so try it out, test the waters, send out some on Tuesday, send out some on Wednesday, try the morning, the afternoon, see where your audience is going to mostly be responsive to you. And then repeat, it's like rinse and repeat, like your hair washing. You rinse and repeat, you try it. If it works, great, repeat it. If it doesn't, try something else. It's not one size fits all for the best time to post. And
it needs to work with your schedule, because ideally, if you get engagement, you need to be on hand to respond within the golden hour, the first couple of hours. You sort of need to babysit your post. So pick a time in the day where you can sort of sit by your screen and be available.
That's really important, Virginia. You have to be around. You can't just post and leave it. You can't just do that, because in order to make the responses, and you want to be responsive to those things, you need to be available to respond. So, we have two people.
Diana and Linda, yeah.
Yeah. Linda, you haven't had an opportunity to speak yet. Would you like to share something with Lucy?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Thanks for letting me do this. So I do a lot of interview coaching. And one of the things that I find is that if you're getting to those last rounds, not only is it that culture fit, but what they're looking for is for you to build on the answers and the information you've gotten in previous interviews. Too often we treat them all as separate events, and they're really not. You've gotten a lot of information from everybody you've spoken to, both in terms of those informational interviews you've had in the past, as well as from everyone you've met and had conversations with during those previous interviews. So build on that information. They've told you what their hot buttons are if you're listening. And you've also gotten a sense of what that culture is by the way that those people are interacting with you in the process. So that's one of the things that I recommend, is making sure that you're building on all of that information that you've had in order to make yourself relevant. Especially when you get to those final stages. It really is not just about the culture, as Virginia mentioned, but it's about making sure that you can demonstrate your value in this situation, not in any situation, but in this situation. So all of your stories have to build on not only what you've learned, but on what's important for this role and how you fit in this role. And that's one of the things that I learned.
Okay, thank you for that advice. And also, yeah, that's really helpful. I find as well that probably the sticking point for me, as you both said, is the culture fit. And I think I'm finding it a little bit challenging because I'm originally from Australia, and we obviously have a different sort of culture fit in the way that we engage in the final round interviews. So I've been experimenting a little bit with that. However, I am finding it a little bit challenging because depending on the role in the US, sometimes the culture sense of mateship is a little bit more formal than I'm used to. And I feel like perhaps that's been to my detriment. So that's also something I've been trying to kind of be aware of, so to speak.
Okay. So
different industries are more formal as well than others,
yes.
Right?
Okay. So let me give you two more pieces of information. One is, as Virginia mentioned earlier, if the interview, that last piece is where you're having the problem, that may be where you want to find a coach and do some practice and get that feedback as you're going forward. But here's another thing that a lot of people don't take advantage of. Regardless of the stage that you're in, when you get that rejection after an interview, go back and thank them. Not only thank them for their time, their effort, for the conversations that you've had and what you've learned, but give them that information that says, I really enjoyed what I did so much that I'd love to be considered for future opportunities. Can I keep in touch? And then here's the clicker. What can I do to better prepare myself for a job like this here or elsewhere in the future? You're not asking what you did wrong. You're asking them to be a mentor. And you're more likely to get that kind of advice and support, asking the question that way, then can you give me some feedback on the interview? I find that it's a very useful thing. And in several cases, it's actually led people to future jobs with that company.
That's really good advice. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
Good luck, Lucy.
I don't
Thank
want
you.
I really thank you, Linda. I thank you all for your insightful questions and your wonderful answers. We did get a question earlier, Virginia. I don't want to, and we're getting short on time, so I want to make sure that I get to Julie's question. And I'm going to, she had a couple of questions, but I'm going to do one of them. What can people do to get noticed on LinkedIn? By recruiters, by people who are looking for people. She's looking for a job and she would like people to notice her. What are some things that she can do to really get noticed?
So I've used the analogy before that LinkedIn is like a needy boyfriend, girlfriend, partner, and that it wants you, it's happier the more you're doing on the platform. So a couple of things that you can do is number one, have what, I don't know if they still call it this, but they used to call it an all-star profile, which meant having it be as complete as possible. Have a picture, have a customized headline, have your about section filled out, have your couple of job entries filled out with stuff, not just the titles and the companies, but a little bit about what you did. Fill out the skills section and fill out the education. Those key components make the algorithm happy. Having connections also makes it happy. We used to say that 500 was sort of the tipping point by which the algorithm then said, okay, this person is worthy of being put into feeds and showing up more in search. So that's a component. Engagement is a component. Engagement means more than just posting or commenting, though. It means accepting connection requests, sending them out. If you get a DM, responding to it. Taking advantage of LinkedIn Learning, using all the stuff that's on there makes it happy. And then engagement and commenting, the content creation piece is another lever that you can pull. So as I stated earlier, if posting, you're maybe not ready, start with commenting. You can work your way up, or you can do a combination of them. The other thing that I have seen make an impact is to make sure that their skills alignment, and that helps you to show up more in search and show up more frequently in search. LinkedIn, there's millions of users now, so keywords searches, and that is driving a lot of how people are finding you. Find the keywords that align with your target and make sure you put them in your headline. You can put them after your job title and make sure that they are in the skills section at the bottom. LinkedIn gives you room for 100 skills. Take advantage of it. The job postings list skills. LinkedIn has a resume builder tool. It's premium only, and it's going to end in a couple of weeks and be replaced with an AI tool. So I'm not sure how that's going to work, but if you have premium or you want to take advantage of the free for 30 days, use it. Use the resume builder tool. Type in your job title, get a list of the keywords, and then that are associated with your target, and put them into those particular places. I think that's all I can think of for LinkedIn.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm going to add to that just a drop.
Yeah.
Those skills are so critical, and it is so simple to find them. They're on every single job posting. They tell you exactly the skills that you need. And so make sure that your skills are aligned with the job postings that you are most likely to apply to. And if they're not, then switch out your skills. You have 100, as Virginia mentioned. We used to only have 50. Now we have 100. Use them and make sure when you enter your skills that you are documenting where you've done those skills, because that's going to go right into your experience section. So LinkedIn making skills very important right now.
Yeah.
And that's something that you need to be aware of. I would also recommend that find something that you want to be creating content around and get known for, so that you increase your credibility and people say, oh, if you want to know something about, in Virginia's case, about resumes, I'm going right to Virginia Franco because she's an expert. And we know, why do we know that? We know that because she's always talking about that. That's her niche. That's what she talks about. And so find your own niche, the thing that you are most passionate about, the thing that you want to get hired for, and start commenting on it, start finding other posts about it, create your own content. Those are all things that are really, really important.
I
The
think
one ad.
I'm sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead, Virginia.
I was going to say one thing that I have been doing lately, in addition to using the resume builder tool, is I'll go to ChatGPT and literally say, if I'm a recruiter on LinkedIn searching for this title, what are the skills I would search under for this role? And then I take that list and I open up my profile on LinkedIn and I go into the skill section and I type in those words. LinkedIn's database, the terminology is sometimes slightly different, but then you can find terms in the database that closely align with what ChatGPT has told me.
Okay. Okay. Because I feel like I've put almost every single skill possible that's associated with the position that I want as a
Right.
Scrum Master.
Okay.
And
Right.
I'm not getting any traction. So
Yeah.
maybe like Mindy said, I need to start creating content and making my own posts and sharing my knowledge in some sort of form of this is what I know. And
Yeah, it's one of the levers you can pull. I would also speak with people that are Scrum Masters working places. You know, having those informational interviews, finding out companies that seem to have budget for those sorts of things. Be doing that at the same time.
okay. All right. Thank you so
Good
much.
luck.
Thank you.
Thanks, Julie. We have a question from Kristen Howland. We haven't spoken to her yet. Diana, I'm going to hold off on you for a moment. Want to give everyone an opportunity. Kristen, how can we help today?
Thank you. It's actually directly related to what you just last spoke about, which was the skill. So yes, there used to be 50, now there's 100. So my question to you is, do you guys know if there is a significant difference in, you know, like the recruiter world of, and I'll use in my example, I'm a director of product marketing. Sometimes it's written as product marketing director or director of product marketing, or some of the skills might be marketing strategy, or some of it might say strategic management. So technically they're like the same thing, but it's worded differently. So do I have to use the same, basically using up two skills as the same thing?
So with regards to the job titles, those are called market value titles. What I do is I literally go into my profile and pretend like I'm creating a new job, and I type in the job title and I pick one of the ones that is most close to what I am doing, and list it the way it's written in LinkedIn's database, because I just think that helps the search. With these skills, if I've got room, I'll put as many iterations as possible. If not,
okay,
I'll pick which one is most important.
Okay. And then a secondary question, sorry, it's about content in your niche. So as a product marketer, I've been in ed tech for way too long, but I'm making an industry pivot to health and wellness.
Okay.
So should my posts be my product marketing expertise or about the pivot to health and wellness?
Do you want to do tech related to health and wellness?
I want to do marketing for health and wellness as opposed to marketing for ed tech.
I think you should do, if it was me, I would do a combination of posts that speak to your commitment to health and wellness. Like, I love that you've done 5 marathons. You might have a post about what was involved in the training. Then you can have another post that talks about technology. And what you're doing then is you're giving people an insight to who you are as a person, and then also what you know.
Fantastic.
But your story is
so
going to be really cool. Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Here's the big question, and I might open it to the group. Every call I'm on, it seems like they have a question about the big green circle. So I'm going to open it up to the group. If you are in the camp that you believe that that big green circle that says open to work is helpful to you and we should continue using it, I want you to raise your hand. Use that raise hand. So, and let's see how many. Okay, so Ed believes it's helpful. I'm going to raise mine. Hold on, let me get mine up. Yeah. Let's see. We have 40 people on the call. Ed believes it is. Linda does. Wendy does. Norma does. Diana does. Julie, Sue, me. Oh, is that it? Oh, Kenneth Diamond. Look at that. Almost all of our career strategists are thinking that it is helpful. I don't see the others. I don't know if you guys are too shy or you really don't believe that it's helpful at all. Let's
For
see.
me, it depends.
Who was that?
Virginia.
Virginia, yes, it depends
Yeah.
on.
Because not all people are as nice as Ed and Linda and all these other people. We know that there are people that are snobs about this stuff or make judgments, and I hate that. So what I tell people is do A/B testing. Slap it on for a few weeks. See how it's helping. Take it off and see how it's helping. And make your decision based on that. But because I have seen people that are hiring managers that have said horrible things about the green circle. I hate that. And you don't know who you're dealing with. You could also always say, screw it, I don't care if I'm never going to work with someone who is like that. So I'm going to stick it on and try to attract the people that I like. And that's totally valid. But if you do care and you are concerned, I always like to A/B test.
Could I
What do you
say
think?
Yes, Norma, yes.
Well, you know what, being one of these experienced instructional designers with lots of years of experience, as opposed to newer people coming into the field, I've noticed the people, my colleagues in the same range as myself, putting the open to work, and I think they do it. We do want work. We do want the work, and we want to distinguish ourselves, but it ageism plays a lot today with work. So I see them doing it, so I put it up too. But yeah, I could take it down. I know Kevin Turner has said that, take it down, put it up. So it's a hard, really...
Norma, I'm going to explain Kevin's advice. Kevin spoke to us, I think it was in January. And what he said was, if you want to raise to the top, and Ed can tell us if this is true or not. Kevin said, if you want to raise the top of the recruiter's pile of names and faces on LinkedIn, you take it down and you put it back up. So you take you make yourself a note. On Mondays, I'm going to take it down, and on Tuesdays, I'm putting it back up. It raises you to the top of the pile. And Ed, you can confirm or deny if that's true. What do you think?
I have a great deal of respect for Kevin. He is my go-to resource for everything new on LinkedIn as a platform. I don't love that particular piece of advice because it presumes that I somehow have a graph that tracks when someone has put it up and when they don't. That is absolutely not the case. I notice it when I go looking. If I am running low on gas, if I have a full tank and I'm driving on a very long highway, I don't particularly notice when I'm going to pass a gas station. I do notice when I'm low and I start looking for signs. That's what it's like. Now, the reason I, as a recruiter, see no downside in the open work banner is that recruiters have a limited number of in-mails we can send you. If you are displaying it open to work, I know there's a much greater likelihood you're going to see the message I send you than someone who isn't. And this is about maximizing the ROI of that limited resource. That's what I like about it. So there's a logistical business reason for it. But B, there's also an ethical moral dimension to it too. Because you know what? I'd rather give the job to someone who's currently on the market. I absolutely would. I've been a job seeker too. I spent 2.5 years not having a proper job during the Great Recession. I know what that feels like.
Love that, Ed. Thank you so much.
Yeah, really valid point.
Yeah, maybe we'll get Ed to come to one of our sessions one day. That would be fantastic, Ed. Then you get the platform for the whole hour. I cannot believe that the hour is past 12 noon, and I am very careful about being prompt on our start and our end. And so I want to thank you all, and Virginia, especially you.
Thank you so much
for sharing your expertise with us. It is so valuable, and this community is so amazing, and I am just so grateful to be a part of it. Here with us. Oops. I thank you all for being with us and for continuing to support each other with your gracious responses and your questions. Please feel free to connect with me, connect with all of us, and I'm wishing you a brilliant and wonderful, productive day. Thank you so much again.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you
everyone.
so much.
Thank you. Thanks, Virginia.
Thank you.
Have a good day at the beach.